Alright. Brothers. They should have called this movie Bros. I was excited for this movie, Everyone's like, this movie looks like crap. Through the years, I have learned to, even just by the trailer without actually seeing the film, see a poorly marketed film when I see one. You know, this movie is directed by a talented director. It stars Natalie Portman, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Tobey Maguire. If you ask me, that's a perfect cast. I think that is an excellent cast. Despite the dumb line from the little girl in the trailer and them foolishly putting Tobey Maguire freaking out in all of the TV spots, you know, I knew this movie wasn't going to be stupid. This movie isn't revolved around a love triangle. It's really not. Even the poster's misleading. There are a couple scenes that imply, you know, Jake Gyllenhaal's attraction to Natalie Portman. It becomes a conflict when Tobey Maguire thinks they did something, but that's really not what this movie's about. How a husband, a father, a brother, a son, you know, going into the military affects his family and affects himself. And I think it does a good job of doing that. I think this is a good time to release a film that's about this, about a man going to Afghanistan. I'll just say I did really like this film. It wasn't a happy film experience. It's a very depressing film, but I think it's very well done. But I did have some problems with it. One thing, you see in the trailer, you know, they think that Tobey Maguire's character died in combat. But, you know, little do you know, he's alive. I didn't expect them to do this, but this film actually does spend a lot of scenes showing what's happening to Tobey Maguire over in Afghanistan. He's held captive by terrorists. For one thing, I didn't really think those war scenes, the scenes in Afghanistan, I wasn't a big fan of them. They're probably some of my least favorite parts of the movie. Like, important things go on in there, but I just didn't like the look to them. You know, I thought they looked a little too polished. They didn't find his body. Would they really send messengers down there, reporting him as dead if they didn't find a body or the body of his partners? But they just say soldier missing in work. It's a remake of I think a Russian film. And although this movie didn't get very good reviews, I wasn't really worried, because about every negative review was just them saying, oh, it doesn't have the power, emotion, and depth of the original. Because critics think that they sound really smart if they always favor the foreign film. But no, I haven't seen the foreign film. I kind of want to, though, after reading all that. I want to say this movie lacks depth, but there is one scene that comes near the end that is a conclusion of something that they built up the entire movie. And I don't want to ruin it, but it was disappointing. It's just one little minor scene, but it just lacked emotion. It did lack depth. And some of this movie really does have a lot of depth. Some of this movie really is emotionally wrenching. There was a woman bawling in the theater I was in. Performances all around are phenomenal. You know, even if, I gotta say, some of the script isn't the best. Overall, I think the script's good, but some of it really isn't the best. But the performances make anything work. Tobey Maguire especially, he does deserve an Oscar nomination. I'm just going to come out and say he does deserve one. No matter how good anyone else is, he deserves a nomination. He was amazing in this movie. He was amazing. He's got that little girl from Bridget Terabithia. I think they just got her because she has the ability to cry at any given moment. Now, I did like the pacing of this movie. Some of it did feel a little rushed. It did, like, not necessarily rushed, but it just didn't show some things. It's kind of like right away, he's in Afghanistan. And right away, there's messengers at their door. And, you know, they just didn't really show some things that I think were kind of important to the story. But overall, I do think this is a powerful film. I think it, you know, well handles this really, you know, potentially effective story. And I think it delivers, you know, on what can happen to people that are in the military and what happens to their families and what happens to them when they come back, and that tension. And I think it's going to get a lot of respect from a lot of people. I personally do not have a close family member in the military. I think this film's going to be favored by people that do, or maybe they won't like it for that reason. I think in some terms it might be insulting, personally. Actually, I don't, because there are things about this movie that I don't want to give away. It's so easy to watch the trailer for this movie and just think it looks stupid, you know, and I don't really blame you. But you really just have to see this movie, because there are a lot of things in this film that explain what is going on, a lot of depth that I don't want to give away, but it explains what's going on better. Overall, I do think this is a really strong film. Yes, it could have been better. The script could have been, you know, more powerful. I think there were scenes with more potential that just didn't really live up to what they could have been. But in the end, I really did like this movie a lot. I would recommend it. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Yeah? Okay.